From the time you started on your path to becoming a private pilot, your share of the decision-making pie has been getting bigger and bigger. As you've picked up more skill and experience, your instructor has been gradually stepping back into a more supervisory position. And now, as you prepare for your long solo cross country, the decisions are going to be all yours. Of course, your instructor will be supervising, but you'll only hear that supervision if you make a wrong call. On flight day, under ideal circumstances, your own instructor will be the one who follows your flight. Your instructor would normally be the person that you'd phone from an intermediate destination to talk about any concerns that arose. But sometimes this ideal cannot be met, and some other instructor will take over the responsibility. Find out who this might be. It should be someone who knows a little about you and with whom you have reasonable rapport. If not, exercise your veto power now. Now remember the personal minimums checklist that you were introduced to before your first solo? Take some time before this long solo cross country to update it to your new skills. Do this with the help and input of your instructor. The stakes are still the same, your personal safety. Only now, the table has gotten bigger. With your improved skills, maybe you'll want to lower some of those minimums. Or maybe you found that you're uncomfortable with some of the minimums, and it might be a good thing to raise some of them a little bit. But be sure to do this reevaluation ahead of time. Do not change your personal minimums on flight day. Okay, let's see how the special considerations relating to your long solo cross country fit into your personal minimums, your PAVE checklist. First, you the pilot. Do you feel current? If not, arrange for a couple of dual laps around the pattern and then throw your Skyhawk at the pavement until it feels like you're a team again. The day of your cross country is too late. Are you rested? What about your health? All those little things we work around in our everyday lives, sniffles, headaches, over-the-counter drugs, don't fit this picture. Reschedule for when you're feeling better and you can really enjoy your trip. And finally, don't forget that every engine start should be immediately preceded by a restroom visit. Second is the aircraft. Have you flown that particular N number before? Cessna 172s have been rolling off the Kansas plains with some interruptions since the late 1950s. Now they all meet the legal requirement of the endorsement on your student pilot certificate, but they may vary as widely as the Volkswagen Bugs did over a similar production run. Of course, if it's a brand new clone of the Skyhawk you usually use, just hop in and enjoy the smell of the new upholstery. But if it is an older model that you're not familiar with, there are questions that you'll want answered. Is the engine larger, smaller? What's different, if anything, about the power settings? How about the radio controls? Are they the same? Does it have different navigation gear, maybe a Loran instead of GPS? Are the seat adjustments the same? And how about the fuel tanks? Are they the same size? It may be necessary to exercise your veto or schedule some dual. But either way, do it before cross-country day. And finally, decide what your minimum landing fuel is going to be for that particular bird. That's the fuel remaining that says land at the nearest suitable airport now, and never change this amount in flight. Next is the environment. Weather should give you no tiny nagging doubts, no chance of or possibility of, if they're talking about something unpleasant. The routes that you plan should all be comfortable. You've picked the easy way through terrain and stayed as near civilization as possible. Take a look at your estimated time en route. And based on your estimated time en route, set a no later than departure time for the entire trip. You want to be back comfortably before sunset, and that does not mean minutes before. An interval equal to the flight time on the homebound leg itself is not unreasonable. And remember, for any cross-country flight, the earlier in the day you go, Normally, the smoother and more comfortable your flight will be. The last item in your PAVE checklist is external pressures. Now, one external pressure can easily be eliminated. Do not schedule any people contacts. Nobody meeting you at the airport, no lunch dates, and no phone calls when you get there. They all rob you of control of your time. If someone might be offended that you passed through without contact, plan to go somewhere else. Another external pressure is the gotta finish syndrome. Several different things drive this one, but usually it's money or a deadline because something's running out. Well, most deadlines are man-made, so they can be rearranged through the same medium. As for money, the flight time is in your logbook, so you haven't lost anything there. If you need to pay for another trip, the price is just chump change compared to what a bad decision could cost you. So carry enough money or credit cards that you can stay overnight if you have a weather or mechanical problems. Now, sometimes the external pressure comes from well-meaning people around your school who are trying to do their jobs, but they're not directly involved in flight training. Say you've called back to the base because you have some doubts about how things are going. Scheduling, reception, dispatch, or maintenance says, we need that airplane back here because maybe they've got another renter for the airplane. Do not jump to attention and rush to the airplane. Wait until you can discuss the situation with your instructor. Your instructor will move quickly to eliminate the problem and spare you any stress. This is one of the reasons to be careful about who will be following your flight. That's the person you want to talk to. And finally, remember the cumulative effect. If there is one marginal item showing up when you run your PAVE checklist, consult with your instructor and decide whether it's go or no go. But if there are two marginal items or just one outright big discrepancy, there's no wiggle room. Reschedule your flight. One last thought. Don't sweat the completion standards. The objectives for this flight mention plus or minus 5 minutes for the comparison between your estimated times of arrival and your actual times of arrival on your completed flight log. But first of all, it says revised in-flight estimated time of arrival. If things are not falling into place as you originally planned, you are going to find out what's wrong and fix it, aren't you? And secondly, 5 minutes either way is a very generous standard. After all, how long are your planned legs? 10 minutes? 15 minutes? 5 minutes is a very large chunk of that. Since you've come this far successfully, your performance is going to be satisfactory. So use this PAVE checklist to help you think through the most important pre-flight and in-flight decisions for your long solo cross-country, instead of leaving them to chance. It will let you pave your way to a fun and stress-free trip that you'll be eager to repeat.